Welcome to the series of learning programming using Python. In this tutorial, you're going to learn how to download Python XY, and you're going to also learn how to install and set up Python XY. You're also going to learn how to use the interface of Spyder or Python XY. After this tutorial, you should know what is a command window, and you should also know what is a script file, and you should know the difference between a command window and a script file and when each one is used. You should also know how to find help. You should also know how to open and run scripts. I hope you will find this tutorial very helpful. Let's begin.
So now that we've successfully installed Python, I'm going to show you the interface and how to go about it. But just one more thing. The reason why we installed Python XY is because it comes with a development environment called Spyder, which makes it easy to run scripts and also debugging, and it's also very intuitive and very easy to learn. So let's go right ahead. The first thing we're going to do is open a new script file. We're going to click here on the top left corner on this icon that looks like a white sheet of paper. If we click here, this appears. This will be our script, and over here we will have a command window. Let's go ahead and open a command window. Okay, this will be our command window, also called a console in Python. So now there's a difference between a script and a command window. In a command window, we send instructions. For example, 5 plus 5 will give us 10. Another difference is that a command window executes the instructions immediately. Whereas in a command script, we can write the same thing. It will not execute it immediately unless we run the script. Another thing is that on a command window, we can't edit once we're done sending the instructions. So if I want to change the value of G, I cannot change it because I've already sent the instructions. In a script, however, I can always go there to change the script. Say for example, the value of G. I can always change it to 10 or to 18. So those are a few differences between a script and a command window. Usually when we're writing a long program, we would write it in a script. So a script contains expressions, and then a command window is just simply used to send instructions and to execute them immediately. Now, one thing that is very common even to the most expert programmers is that there are some things which you will not know. So in order to solve that problem, you need to know where to get help. So I'm going to show you two ways in which you can get help in Python. The first one is by using the help function. So let's go back to our command window. If we type in help, and say for example we want to know more about the math module, we put in our module inside the brackets and we click enter. Okay, let's import it first. Okay, now the help function tells us more about the math module. So you can see it gives us the name, the file it's built in, and the description and the functions it contains. So all of these are the functions that are inside the math module. Here's the cost module. It's in radians. So let's use the math module using the cost function. Okay, we know that it's supposed to give us -1 for pi. So that's one way in which you can get help inside of Python. Another way is by looking at the documentation. Remember the first interface we launched when we were trying to start up Python or Spider? Let's go back to it. If we come to this interface, if we come to the second tab, which is called documentation, we click here, and then here we scroll down to Python language manuals. If we click on the green tick, we will have access to the Python documentation. Here you will find the library references. So if you want to use list, data types, actually for the rest of the tutorials we're going to be using this a lot. So you can always come here if you don't understand something for reference purposes and to find out more help. For example, say for example you experience a syntax error. Let me show it to you on the command window. I wrote something that Python does not understand, and it gave me a syntax error. So now I want to find out what is the syntax error. I simply come to my documentation and type in syntax error. I click enter. I come here through the list of results. If I click here, I find an explanation of what the syntax error really means. So now that we've gone through the help, now let me show you how to run your first script. So let's just print this. So usually before you run your script, you need to set up the run configuration. So the way in which we do that, we come to the run tab here at the top, we click here, we go to configure, we click configure, and we come here. These are the consoles. So when we're talking about consoles, we're talking about this here. So these are the consoles. Usually we want to execute in a new dedicated Python console. This is just for working directory. You can leave this settings default, and then here it asks you, do you want to interact with Python after execution? Usually we want to interact with it, especially if our script contains some line of code that requires the user to input something. That's when we will interact. So we want to go ahead and tick here. Then we click OK, and usually Python will ask us to save our script before we actually execute it. So let's go ahead and do that. So another thing, these are errors. So if I type something like this, you will see that Spyder will give me an error here, undefined name VG. Or if I do something like then it gives you the error that is there. So you want to make sure when you run your scripts that you don't have these things on the left side. Okay, let's go ahead and run our code. Remember, before we run our script, we need to save it. So let's try to run it. Okay, now Python asks us to save the script before we run it. So I'm gonna go ahead and save my script on desktop. Okay, now that we're done running, it's finished running, and the value is 21. And you can see if we change these values here and we run it again, we're gonna get a different value. So we run the script here and our results will be printed on the command window. Now sometimes Python might give you a problem because you haven't opened the correct IPython console. So the way in which you can solve that problem, you come to consoles, you open an IPython console, a new one. The reason why we use kernel is because it allows us to run the script, or we can use another command window console. So that's how you do. And another thing, you can change the layout. You can move this around to suit your needs here, and here you will have your history, and here you have your object inspector. You can also change the views anytime you wish. And if you want to go back to the reset, you can simply come here and reset the window layout. Okay.